Welcome to the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube. This is our Awakening Together weekly gathering. Each and every week we have a different minister who speaks. If you'd like to attend our services live, please visit our website awakening-together.org. Click on Online Sanctuary on the main menu. Then, How to Enter the Sanctuary. Our services are held Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary.
All right. Thank you, Sana. Good morning, everyone. Meg here. It's really great to be present here with you in the sanctuary. I literally just flew in last night from an incredible journey that I can't wait to see how today's homily is going to tie all of that and the message that came into the service today. It's an honor to be here. So let's greet one another. I'm in Cape Cod and it's gray, and I am artificially heating my room up to 79 degrees Fahrenheit just to match the weather that I've been in for 1 month, which created a new habit for my experience. All right, and welcome again, everyone who just came in. It's nice seeing locations and geographics. All right, so here at Awakening Together, we're an assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self. Within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols, we seek to discern one truth and rest in its embrace. And I can't say enough about the service of giving a homily and being asked to be a conduit and doing an inquiry with you this morning. It's going to be awesome. All right. Thanks for listening with me. All right, let's settle in and call in the purpose of this topic today. As you know by now, we have 5 core values. So today was an obvious one for me because so much of what is being understood of my awakening is writing my own Bible, right? It's more exciting than the course. When it's individualized for me to wake up. So it's core value number 1, meaning that we trust everyone is led by unique inner guidance to one experience called awakening, which is realization of one true self. We live this value by supporting one another on different paths of awakening. And as we keep using the word another and other and other, you are just another me. And that's the topic of today. When that unconditional love is in that inward journey, I'm attracting things without conditions. And here I am again, So the description came, I have the blesseds in my head, they pop up whenever they feel like it. So it came to me in NTI Matthew, blessed are those who see only love in their brothers, for they know what they have found. And I just love the promise of they know what they have found. It's not like the mystery always remains mysterious, What if our greatest fear is not of death, but of life, reversing how we try to make the body survive and avoid death. And here we are practicing how to end the ego, which is a death. So when we break down the mental patterns of judgments and expose death as the great reward, is there really anyone else out there but me? And so my awakening is really teaching me. I just keep going, oh my God, I'm just talking to myself. And that's so sobering and it's so ordinary, but it's such a great yearning and devotion that we practice here to get to this ordinary, like, oh yes, there is only one thing going on here. Like we have 2 lives, and the second one begins when we realize we only have one. And this is this emergence. So with that as the prayer and the intention from our Holy Spirit, the thought of awakening, I only did one. There's 365 thoughts of awakening. And after MPP was over, I said, okay, I'm going to do this next program because I'm going to be a great student, philosopher, teacher of all time. And that's so funny how that's fallen away. But that is what something is grasping onto. Like, we're in a school, we're of service, and it looks like something until we're asking it to not look like something. So anyway, I go and I have one lesson, and it's accept all things given as a gift from our Holy Spirit for the purpose of peace and awakening to love. And that's all I needed to hear. And so with that in mind, and you know, the one other nugget that has been such a guidepost in my life is this one time I reached out to my spiritual mentor at that time and was reading Regina's texts and stuff in her books. And I wrote out an upset. And it was this one time I wrote this upset, and it was like one reply. And it said, if your mind was perfectly healed, you would not see this upset. And that really, really was my archer's pulling back of the bow going into the I am. And I just want to be an inspiration for your intense desire for liberation. So that's the prayer. My heart just pouring out my love for all of that's taken me to this moment that I'm calling now, and to collapse time and to keep feeling that still small voice become the only voice. With that being said, amen. And thanks for letting me open up. And I love this journey of how this homily came together. I've been on a whirlwind of a trip, and I had this moment where I was taking awareness back even further, back to this new awareness, observing this feeling of ecstasy, just begging God to not let me experience it. God, please don't let me materialize this feeling of perception of how much joy is in my life right now. Let me not make it separate. And I remember a teaching from the Guiding Light somewhere. I just remembered, you know, Regina talking about Bernadette Roberts reading about how ecstasy and that unitive bliss state in the consciousness, there's still a further going. Like, that is not the unitive state of life. We don't actually get to bring that unitive state of life down to earth. So if it's still happening as an experience, there's still more doors of perception to go through. So on my this recent trip that I've done, sailing, doing a crossing across the Atlantic through the Bermuda Triangle, and just this whole adventure of what freedom is showing me I am and am not. I just picked up Bernadette Roberts' book. I kind of looked for the ecstasy thing, but couldn't find it, found something else. Had a list of readers. Joe popped up in my mind. He was like, oh, that's so funny. This week I was thinking, wonder when Meg's doing a homily. And then in my morning contemplation, I was like, oh, Bernadette Roberts. So it's so obviously synchronistic that, that's the God I created. I have a God of my understanding, and then beyond that. So without further ado, I will let go of the mic, and we're going to be reading some excerpts from Bernadette Roberts. Thanks, Joe.
Wow. Thank you, Meg. Thank you. That was quite an opening. This is good morning, everyone. I guess I can be heard okay. This is from Bernadette Roberts, The Path to Know Self, between phases 3 and 4. Having seen clearly that pure vision lies beyond all self-involvement, beyond the faculties of soul, feelings, responses, and even the door at the center, all former contemplative experiences now appeared less pure, tainted by contrast. For this reason, I decided if I could not at this time have the continual vision of God beyond self-consciousness, then I wanted no experiences at all. Once the self is seen through and beyond, nothing less than pure vision can entice. Like everyone else, I took it for granted that the permanent vision of God was reserved for the next life. And since I was not destined to die immediately, what I had to do now was to accept this present life, self included, and make the best of it. I was therefore willing to put my experiential life behind and move forward by way of simple faith. I now saw that faith devoid of all experience was the closest one. I now saw that faith devoid of all experience was the closest one could come to the truth, the reality of God. If self invariably had its finger in every experience, at least it could not touch naked faith, or faith that is utterly selfless. This is a particular type of faith. It is not an intellectual assent to belief or a system of thought. It is not a faith that gives rise to feelings and experiences. It is not a mental construct we cling to with persistent will. Rather, this faith is the truth of God as he is in himself, not as he is in myself. It is a faith that comes after seeing, and not before. Where before transformation, faith was dependent upon our minds, wills, experiences, our self, that is. Now, after transformation, faith or the truth of God never depends on anything outside itself. What is more, because it is a realized truth, it is a faith we cannot live without, even if we wanted to, even if we tried to run from it all the days of our lives. As long as faith rests with the intellect, we will always be subject to doubt and disbelief. After all, it is the nature of the intellect to doubt. This tells us we must go beyond the intellect if we are to lay hold of truth. And this laying hold is what I regard as mature faith. In a word, faith is selfless. Whereas our experiences and our knowledge are not. Section 3. This third phase represents the peak of the unitive life, ushering in the fullness of the contemplative experience. In this unified state, the continuous interior silence is much like the habitual prayer of quiet that, because it is habitual, appears quite natural and of itself constitutes the backbone of the unitive life. Apart from this, either at times of prayer or when otherwise not occupied, all the faculties enter into this silence and remain for long periods lost in God. Here too, due to the silencing of the memory, we become familiar with a certain sense of loss of self, which is unspectacular and impermanent. From the depths of this interior union is born a great strength, an accumulation of the power and energy of love that, after drawing us inward, would now move us outward because it cannot be contained within. This love is the burning flame that would suffer every trial and forfeit its life and experiences to be able to give as it has received. The strength of this generosity will constitute the turning point of the unitive life, acting as a preparation for all that follows. It is as if we had arrived on top of a mountain and asked, where do we go from here? What is left to be realized? Until now, the movement of life had been of interiorization and unification, but once completed, this movement turns around and, with a thrust of inexhaustible energy, moves us out beyond ourselves to a life of selfless giving. Thus, arriving at the peak, we have no place to go but down. A coming down, however, that is a going out, a more complete going out of self. Section 4. The fourth phase of the unitive life is the active phase that follows the same path and comes to the same end as Christ's active life. In other words, it is the way to Calvary and the crucifixion, the final death of the self. This phase is marked by the continuous flow of exterior trials, tests, and every type of suffering, wherein the soul finds its sole refuge, hidden deep in God, deep in the center that lies below the joys and sorrows of earthly existence. Those who meet with success, renown, or any form of personal glory or satisfaction in this phase must forfeit Calvary because they will not be ready, will not have undergone the necessary preparation to come to Christ's own ending. By the very nature of the unitive state, the man of God moves contrary to the flow of this world's thinking and behaviors. So much so that his very existence in the world is antagonistic to it. And because he sees differently, he is forever destined to walk alone, totally alone. Thus, the way forward is to be rejected, misunderstood, and subjected to every conceivable tribulation in a world, Thus, the way forward is to be rejected, misunderstood, and subjected to every conceivable tribulation. In a word, it means to live fully. In time, it is realized that the great desire to return measure for measure, to give as we have received, to do or die, has all been a subtle form of self-seeking. Where we had thought the inexhaustible flame belonged equally to God and self, we now see it was never for the self to use, either for God or for neighbor, since the result would have been some form of self-expression or self-gratification. Now we see there never was, never can be, any adequate earthly form of expressing this unitive love, because from beginning to end, the flame never had any other purpose than to burn us out, wear us down, and thrust us out of ourselves without any accompanying sense of personal satisfaction. In truth, this flame is not our own. By the time we see this, selfless giving has become a habit, a way of life. We cannot live otherwise. We cannot turn back. Thus, we must go forward to the final consummation, to the final death of self. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe. That was a delight to listen to. So rich. I mean, we need 10 hours, right, to dissect this. That's true. Let's see. You know, my goal, if I have to say those words and have one, is to just sit and do inquiry with you on everything that presented itself for me. From daydreaming myself into this absolute and beyond, and then by rejecting the material world, I'm getting this spiritual life that's giving me also a world, but it's not of it. You know, it's happening differently. To you know, because from the beginning to end, the flame never had any other purpose than to burn us out, wear us down, and thrust us out of ourselves without any accompanying sense of personal satisfaction. I mean, the bravery that we put ourselves through to live this spiritual life, not just in theory, but an active one. You know, it even says, you know, we're exiting out of this matrix and it's going to be painful on the way out. And to then be experiencing bliss because of walking through that pain, I mean, It's just a celebration. I always have gratitude when I'm sitting with these teachings. So you are another me. It just makes me, you know, there's you know, not satisfaction, but this causeless joy coming from becoming becoming what I am, and watching these spiritual teachings become what I am. Like reading somebody else's Holy Spirit message just feels like me. And it's just an unusual relationship to be talking about the mirror and the reflection of my own unconditional love coming back as a projection reflected that isn't making me suffer. You know, there's an end of suffering that has its own reward, because I said, you know, not today, ego. Like, not today, ego, you know, over and over and over. And then, you know, watching the habit switch from, you know, what used to be 51-49 to 49-51, and going into that default presence. Blessed he who has removed value from this world and placed it in heaven, for he knows where his treasure lies. Blessed are those who see only love in their brothers, for they know what they have found. And I keep coming back to, like, I'm just finding out it's me, but it's the me with this gift of identity being removed, which is taking away the I am bad. You know, it's taking away the suffering. And I'm living a very synchronistic life because of it. So onward with bringing down the astral projection of just being able to be in that space and talk about it. And down to the life experience of like this past year and a half, and really just going back and carrying so much of like what I mentioned in the beginning, like daydreaming myself into the absolute. Who am I? And that is the only question you have to ask. Like these things on repeat for like 8 years, and then experiencing the intense desire for freedom bring up absolute hell and be grateful for it, you know, like, and you know, that life, you know, like avoiding social pleasures to contemplate my whole life, you know, so much devotion and so much so much me abundance in love that I'm just if I can tap into my ego is so surprised at what's coming out of my mouth. So, you know, spiritual aspirations have been like the bedrock of using the mind as a willful instrument to catalyze myself into having a belief that will escort me after belief, but it's the one that's going to help me take me there. It's the thorn that's going to take out the thorn, throw both away. You know the drill. And so spiritual aspirations were a way from my mind, which is a self-sabotaging demon, to have good thoughts. Like I didn't know how to think optimistically. And so to hold on to any kind of belief that like I'm going to live life as it's rigged in my favor and I am the child of God. Like, what? You have to be kidding me. So doing those things, you know, what a reward to say, this is mine. Oh my, this is from the triangle of me. I am the Father, Son, Holy Spirit in this statement. And some of those aspirations have been like, you know, oh, please let me not respond as a conceptual something. Please let me be vibrationally aware. You know, let me start feeling like the elements, maybe. Let me feel like water, you know. Oh my God, so here I am the water, I'm the moon, you know, learning to not understand so much meaning. And so I have this journey where now, you know, and where Bernadette Roberts is talking about, she's like, you know, there's just this selfless giving out that's going to happen. So how is this going to be in service, you know? And And so I made a true aspiration that had a calling for others, to help my relationship, that I still saw others. I was still giving power to otherness, whether it be about the God of otherness of you, like, okay, I see that you have God in you too, but there's still this separation. Like, how do I close that otherness? How do I think that I can only find the true self if I am a hermit and I avoid others? Like, help me get rid of these belief systems in my spiritual thing that has taken me so far, but now it's not of service anymore. And so, I have this special relationship with otherness, and this fear of service, that I'm afraid I'm going to be a person when I'm of service. They're going to know that I still think I'm me. So, that whole hamster wheel. And so I made a calling that, it was my spiritual aspiration is now a calling for people knowing that they are free, people knowing that they're co-creators with God. So I was, so how do I relate to giving that to others? Well, I have to experience it. I can't give away what I'm not. So all of a sudden, this little magic thing started happening where my focus on others started to dissolve, because it plagued me still, like what others thought, all of this stuff. So here I am, like in this new expansion of, the next realm of the illusionary world I'm breaking through. And I'm a I don't go to retreat person, right? Like I know that I'm the I am. I don't have to go to retreat. Like, my spiritual belief of how God was going to give me true self was not coming from going somewhere outside of myself. That's my judgment. So here I go signing up for a retreat, and I go in March, and it's awesome. I'm like, whoa, that's so cool. I want to go to a retreat. Like, look at this turning around. It's like, it reminds me of the story of Regina with your McDonald's. Like, I am going to go and have a McDonald's and not judge myself or something. We remember the funniest things, don't we? So yeah, here I am. I'm going to retreat. I'm like, I'm taking a winter break. I can work anywhere from home. That freedom came to me. Financial insecurities coming, like, through this awakening of, like, asking God before all else to help me in this world, because I don't know how to live in this world. So all of this stuff's happening, and here I am spending a month around people, totally exposing my special relationship with hermithood. And meanwhile, I have this other ongoing relationship with sailing that's starting to come in to smash this special relationship. And all of it. Come on, God, you're going to help me put this whole homily together. We're going to do it. So I'm going to this retreat. I'm surrounded by all of these people who are my age, which is also another belief system I have. Like, I don't relate to people my age. I'm only friends with people who were born in like 1950. It's been my childhood up until now. And even this week, I met this man. He goes, you know about you? He goes, you're timeless. He goes, well, no, you're from my generation, but you're in your generation. I said, I understand, me too. It's okay. So, all right. So here I am around people my age at a retreat, talking to people and, exposing my mask, my favorite mask. And all of us, and I go to this, like, so we get this text to show up to the dinner party, like, early, so we can check everyone in. So I'm like, okay, everyone's going to be there early. And I get there early and nobody shows up early. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, just go hide, just go back to your room. And oh my gosh. So I run into this girl and we're just like, I'm like, holy crap. I ran into my journal. Like, this girl's head is like what I write in my diary. And we're just glued to each other, like, talk. And I'm like, and we're both having this, because we're both at a spirituality retreat. Of course, we're going to talk to each other in non-dual language. Here we go. Here I am now exposing this mask, and I'm just having a blast. Anyway, they're sailor, like, she has a husband, and we're all clicking, and they're sailors, and and all this amazing stuff happened. So we keep in touch, and like there was another me out there in this new way that I wanted to bring. It was like there was a new normal of meeting myself somewhere without it having to be such a classroom of contrast. You know, like I was happy to meet me. I exposed like breaking out of that special relationship. So I mean, that part of the story was important because sailing is, you know, becoming this thing that came into my life like you know how we're born with legs and we walk and we don't really question having legs or walking. We just do it. And you know, if you want to do things with your legs, like be a runner or walk fast or what, you know, you have options. But like sailing kind of had felt like that. Like it didn't feel like a good idea or a bad idea. Like when sailing came into my world, it was just very much like, this is here for my awakening. And I'm learning all of these skill sets with, you know, when I asked God for help, he put Billy in my life and he put sailing into my life. And I, as much as I wanted to question all of the above so often, it's part of some grander circle. And so I have this world of synchronistic events happening with sailing, and God, I really want to be free and not be in this world. Teach me how to be in this world without the hate for the world, and let me really see my brothers as love. Let me be the blesseds of, you know, I'm germinating the world with something beyond hope. Like I want people to know they're free, so I have to live that way. So I took some time off from books after that retreat. I was like, I'm God. Okay. Like we're going to do this. God, I'm God. And I don't want to pray to you, you know, just all of that stuff. And so it was really, really hard not to listen to my favorite things. Like I broke my heart to let go of what I thought wouldn't come back around as like a law. Like, you know, when we think we lose something, the ego's like, you're not going to get anything in return once you let go of this, which is not true. It just heals the relationship. And so yeah, I mean, it was like I took off from the show and I just wanted to feel my own Bible being written, my own life, my own wisdom, my non-dependence on being devoted in such a disciplined way. Like, let me see who I am without the things that make me think I'm free. Make me have like a rooftop garden in a cityscape. You know, I'm free. I have a garden. And you know, being a queen, you still have to be in the castle. So where am I wandering off to in this whole journey? And so meanwhile, I have this dream, this feeling, this love of swimming in water. And I've always had these vision boards of turquoise water and sailing, and not selfishly about it, just it feels good. And so I was visiting the islands last year during Christmas in the French West Indies and in St. Bart's, and my partner, he does fabric design, and so he's real tactile, and he loves great quality like silks and all these fun patterns and stuff. So we're in this town and we drive past this boutique. It's like, we have to go in this shop. So we go in this shop, you know, a couple of days later, and it's just like, I'm in something similar to the retreat story where I met the other me. Like I'm in this time warp of something's happening. So I meet this woman and her shop, she has all these shops from like Africa and her girls make this jewelry, and they sailed around the world on their boat, and they grew up on the boat, and they love Africa and the Caribbean, and they're just sailors. And this woman's like, oh my gosh, you would love my husband and Pierre. And so anyway, 45 minutes later, Pierre comes walking in, and he's the sailor, this Frenchman sailor, sailed around the world. Long story short, we're friends to this day. But that meeting made like his venture up north here during the summer. I went sailing with him. I'm getting my captain's license. You know, that whole venture of like me asking God for help 8 years ago put me on this little day sailor in the bay. And now I'm doing these like Atlantic crossings. And I don't know why, but it's inducing this awareness of further back than I could have ever even imagined. And watching the events of life unfold because of surrender, you know, and because I don't want fear running the show, right? It's like there's this blueprint of me that's showing up. It's because I don't want to make it, but it's great. Such alignment, and I can't believe it's happening. So side note, so we remain friends. We go sailing this summer in Maine, the coast of Maine. He invites me to do this crossing from Martha's Vineyard, which is like right near Boston, down to St. Bart's. It's going to be like, you know, a 12-day venture. Well, wouldn't you know it, that I get this prompt like, nope, you're not supposed to do this leg. And I'm like, inner guidance, are you kidding me? Wait, have you considered the things that I need for my life? Like, why, you know, and I go and play tennis and I talk to my coach and I'm like, I got this prompt not to do this, you know, Martha's Vineyard to Bermuda to St. Bart's trip. All right, fine, whatever. I'll follow it. I look forward to seeing what you're going to show me. And like that day when I was like, nope, you know, Pierre. And I met the whole crew. Who was going on this whole thing in Martha's Vineyard. And so, yeah, so I don't do this leg. And the moment I decided not to do it, like 3 hours later, my friends who were the other me's in the retreat in Costa Rica, they were like, hey, Meg, it's Plummy and Jeremy. And we got a prompt to go to the Annapolis boat show. And then we were going to rent a car and come visit you. Can we come visit you? And I was like, yeah, of course. Thank you, God. Sweet. I love that you're entering into my orbit. And it was just at this point where the suffering of this stagnation of going back into that special relationship of like, oh, I got to be alone. And I'm just going to be alone and write about how being alone got me to the unit of state. And, well, you know, this whole nonsense. And then, bam, they bust my illusion. I'm in this joy of witnessing the projection of me dissolve into a, you know, holiness. We're going, you know, so many synchronicities. It's nuts. And so I'm like, wow, that was so cool. So they have the same dream I do. They're boats, they're sailing, they're going somewhere warm, they're getting out of the cold, living this adventurous life of being like feeling brave on the water and just exploring that, and a little bit of like tribal living and stuff like that. And then so they come, so I get this whole trip in, and then this new movement starts happening, and the daughter of the captain rings me up and is like, Meg, you want to hop on a plane and fly to Bermuda and do the second leg of the trip? Like they're kicking one girl off, and it's you and the 5 guys, and she was drunk and she was screaming and hysterical. So I come in as like the buzz of fresh air on top of like, I'm super excited that I listened to guidance and got to do the sailing trip also. Like, you know, don't doubt what's meant for you. Like if it's your calling, it's going to keep calling you. It's just, you know, the optimism that's coming through surrender is just astonishing to the addict in me who just loves to think myself to death. You know, in this reading, go beyond self-consciousness, then I wanted no experiences at all. Once the self is seen through and beyond, nothing less than pure vision can entice. You know, I took it for granted. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get the unit of state after I die. All right, let's just die. Like, how many times am I negotiating to talk myself into what I think I'm getting out of life? Bernadette Roberts is like, all right, shit, I'm not gonna die in this life. I got to make the best of it. That was one of the first lines I said to Billy when I asked for help. I said, listen, I'm far enough away from my most desperate part of me, which was like, I will just kill myself because I can't live with my head. Like, I can't do it. And then like we listen to NTI Luke on repeat, and like I hear about this willingness to listen to another voice, and I'm like, screwed, because I'm far enough away from suicide, I suppose, that I have to do something else. So I said with very serious eyes, like, if we're going to do this, it better be great. And there's freedom in no choice today. There's so much freedom in no choice. The bond and the trust and the freedom that came on that sailing experience. I was sitting there with just a blanket of stars over me, going, there's so much vastness, that how does vastness get behind this vastness and not make this an experience? And then just this synergy, this energy of just contemplating with this crew who I'm like, did I make this crew or did they make this crew? Because we are all vibing at such a sameness that we're all walking by each other in this harmonious, effortless effort where I'm just like, whoa, did Adi Ashante come and just go, here's some stardust? Like, and then you got these guys coming going, I mean, this feels pretty like the synergy of this feels really good. You feel like we're like pulsating with each other, so like the conversation can't get any more obvious than my inner dialogue at the same time. So this unitive state that, my new awareness doesn't want to bring down to earth, as I'm reminded from, all these teachings, and there's this one heartbeat happening where, let me not become my projection and be only love. And then it's too big for the body to handle, that it needs time to gently and consistently go through this, because I can't even tell you how many times I just cried of my own spiritual awakening being written in front of me, and not trying to understand it with a group of people who are not trying to understand it. I mean, it's just weird. It got weird. It got weirdly beautiful. And going through the whole spectrum of, I'll just share a little bit of this story of, how my dreams are coming true, but it's a dream of dreaming with God, like, let me create with you. How do you see me? Oh, I don't have to punish myself. Are you sure? I mean, I was a little too happy there for a while, right? That guilt. God, watching that. What a waste. Oh, what a beautiful waste to just beg God to not let me feel guilty for existing. And then, and Bernadette Roberts, she's like, it's much like the habitual, that in this unified state, the continuous interior silence is much like the habitual prayer of quiet, that because it is habitual, appears quite natural, and of itself constitutes the backbone of the unitive. Like, oh, that's a prayer. That's a prayer. There's some kind of something holding both of me that I thought was two of me, that is this one. And and going through watching what I'm afraid of in my mind, and then stepping foot on this boat, this plank of this wood, and you have a steel aluminum hull, and we're 1,000 miles off the shore of the eastern coast. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of feet below us. There's 20 and 30 foot swells coming at the side of the boat. The lentil soup is going that way. The captain just having this temperament of, I guess we're going to have sandwiches tonight. Like the way that I dreamed of people being responsive, because I started acting that way toward myself, started showing up, a calm temperament, no matter what was going on, being sick, like puking all over with brothers who were now just my, family. Like, and then I was just sitting back going like, there's no suffering here. I'm just loving myself. Like, I mean, the availability that we're opening our hearts up to when our minds start to die, it's just unbelievably unlimited. There's so much potential for every single person deciding to walk with God and to have the discipline to do so. You know, I opened myself up to smashing the special relationship that I thought was going to bring me a more unitive life. And here I am being more extroverted than I've ever known, just meeting myself everywhere. And I get to share it in the spiritual laboratory. There's so much more I want to share. Even being with a bunch of Frenchmen, and you know, after I get to the island, I'm invited to stay on the boat, and then I'm just in these family situations where it's like French speaking, and it was so awesome to just be like, what understands what? Come on, let's employ this. I mean, I had so many opportunities for awareness, and then I was just moved to play some music that nobody could understand unless you spoke Spanish. You know, and I didn't know what the lyrics were until this morning. I found this song through the algorithm of my Spotify playlist. Thank you, Google. And then I listened to this song, and the song's called "The Water in the Land," "Water in the Earth," and it says, you know, you don't stop being the prisoner of the devil. I want to see you running down the hill, germinating seeds, flourishing hope in the hands of life, not in the one that threatens it. You know, like, oh, thanks God for always just giving me that lights me up, you know. I think that's my experience with awakening is there's an intense desire of liberation that I've let move me, and it's just created this, and it's my unique inner guidance of waking up and asking who I am relentlessly, and falling in love with consciousness, and then falling in love with what was holding consciousness, and asking to let go all along the way, just to receive more of me. Yeah, so thanks for letting me share and be here. And yeah, I look forward to all of it that's now. Grateful. All right. Thanks again, everyone. And also, as a church, our primary form of income is donation. So if you benefit from Awakening Together, or you feel called to, please donate. The link is in the chat, or awakening-together.org/donate. Thank you again so much, Joe, for being my reader. So it's open for shares.
Thank you, Meg. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Billy. Hey.
Hey. Nice going. How to put it together. Great opening of the reopening of the reopening of the reopening. You know, and putting it all together, and comfortably sitting in the seat of life, you know, and living life of what, you know, we are learning here, developing the trust to trust, you know, that whole process of the I becoming we, becoming I, of the absolute, you know, and, you know, that whole journey of how it was all shown to you in the observations of observations of the observations, you know, and having that seat that's that little sweet spot that, you know, we get glimpses of, and you had great glimpses of the sky and the ocean, being in the body of water that you've never seen so much water, but there was so much more sky, you know, and, you know, where all those stars were in all over your your peripheral with as much as you could see dust, and nothing to ricochet off of. No, thoughts to go and to keep going and not to come back. They were just easily going by, and great adventure, great putting it together, holding that space now that you have 4 walls and a ceiling, and still living in that total vibration. It's all over your face. Love you. Have a great day. Nice job.
Thanks, Billy.
Yeah.
Hey, Regina.
Hi. Let me take these off so I'm not yelling. It's funny, Meg, because I can't say that I remember exactly what you said. Isn't that funny? What I remember more is there were these, I don't know if you saw me laughing sometimes. There was this laughing that was happening while you were speaking sometimes. And the laughing was coming from this joyous recognition of what you were saying. Like, the laughing was coming from the oneness. And so I think that's what I'm going to remember most about this homily. I mean, usually the only time I really remember what people say is if I write it down while they're talking. And before I comment, I kind of go over the chat. What did I write down? Oh, yeah. And I know one thing I wrote down with you was about writing your own Bible, which was one of the things I laughed at, because that's a joy of recognition that can't be, actually, that wasn't the right words, but I can't find exactly what I wrote down. But again, I think my biggest comment is just that there was this recognition of these realizations that you were having, and the recognition of, seeing your masks, and the recognition of lots of things. I also loved, the lentil soup story about the boat out there in the middle of the ocean. Yeah, that's all I have to say. It's a very deep comment without much to say. Just that joy of recognition. That's really what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. And I think we have one more song and until we go into fellowship where we can gush some more. So thanks again, everyone. Enjoy your Sunday wherever you are in this amazing world. And with that, I'll pass it back over to you and Saina, and I look forward to the fellowship.
You've been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.